we've seen them ask Bradley Beal to do more point guard stuff and him kind of go a little too far into that. And then them have to swing him back and say, we still need you to attack. And everybody from Frank Vogel, KD, Book, everybody has been in Beal's ear about, we need you to look for your shot and to hunt.
Let's talk a little bit more about Bradley Beal, and we'll start by hearing from Bradley Beal himself on opening the scoring back up.
That I can do it, and I mean, it doesn't. I don't feel good about it because we lost. This is something like, I can care less about how many I scored in the L. I think for me, it's being aggressive. It keeps the floor open. It keeps defenses honest. I think they were trying to hide Zion on me, so I'm going to score. I think they were trying to hide several defenders on me because they figured I don't shoot as much, but I'm not allowing that to happen anymore. I was kind of just reprogramming my mind of just, being aggressive. And my teammates and coaches all instilled that in me too, to just be aggressive, look for your shot, stop always looking to just, create and pass when you attack. But, at the same time, it keeps defenses honest, man. Everybody out there has to guard. We're not going to just allow you to hide and not be involved in action.
So I love what he said there, because there's this narrative, and I can understand the narrative that Book and KD are the two alpha, quote unquote, on the team, right? But if you have Bradley Beal, which we saw before this game, we saw a couple times where he just was not being aggressive enough when the opportunity presented itself, right? He was trying to defer to everybody else. He was kind of overpassing from time to time. That Bradley Beal will get you nowhere. It will get you nowhere. You have to have a Bradley Beal that is still a threat out there. Otherwise, the gravity of himself will not matter. And so you see teams starting to think, well, he's not going to do it, so let's just back off of him and focus more on KD and Book. And then he cooks them. Like, be careful what you wish for, because if you woke him up, I keep saying, I said this all season, and I will not back away from this, Bradley Beal is the difference between the Suns reaching or not reaching their max potential and their ceiling, in my opinion, because he has the most impact on the game. You know what the other two are going to bring. We saw what those other two basically could do by themselves last year in the playoffs against the Nuggets. What we didn't see was that third person that could help out, because Chris Paul got hurt. And everybody keeps saying, like, in game 2, the Suns might have won if Chris Paul didn't get hurt. Well, we'll never know. Now you got Bradley Beal. If he doesn't get hurt and he's playing at a high level, what's it going to look like? Because I think everybody can assume that we could all feel pretty good if Bradley Beal's playing at his peak, Book's playing at his peak, and KD's playing at his peak. There's not going to be very many teams that can beat this team. So Bradley Beal focusing and being assertive when the time calls for it, when the opportunity presents itself, is the best version of Bradley Beal, because he can still do everything they're asking him to do while also being aggressive.
Yeah, we talked about it yesterday. This was the bright spot for me. This is what softened the blow of the loss a little bit, because the playoffs are right around the corner. And you wanted to see that signature Brad Beal game where it's like, yo, I'm here. I can do this. I can take over. And so that tape rolls over. So now the Clippers now are sitting here like, yo, when we game planning, you can't sleep on that dude. That dude can drop 40 on you. So I think the timing of it was perfect. And I think the way he did it was perfect, because it just wasn't 33. It was, we're down 10, and I took over a quarter, and I ISO'd you, and I took big shot after big shot after big shot. And that's how playoff basketball works out. People are going to try really hard to take Book and KD out of the game. And now you have some evidence that if you get the ball to Bradley Beal, he can win some games for you.
Yeah, there's been so much talk about, how much the big three is making, or who is the point guard of this team, and all these different things. And I think not enough credit has been given to Bradley Beal for the way that he's adjusted to fit in with this big three. Because we've been saying it since we first found out they were going to be playing together, that all three of these guys can play on the ball or they can play off the ball. But early in the season, because Beal was out so much and because Book was out here and there, those two had to really pick up the slack, and Book was mostly the point guard for a lot of that. And now that they've been healthy again for a stretch of games, we've seen them ask Bradley Beal to do more point guard stuff and him kind of go a little too far into that. And then them have to swing him back and say, we still need you to attack. And everybody from Frank Vogel, KD, Book, everybody has been in Beal's ear about we need you to look for your shot and to hunt. And we talked a lot about with their fourth quarter struggles, those stretches to start the fourth, those 4 to 6 minutes where Book is on the bench, as what normally lets those leads spiral out of control, or what normally the Suns really struggle in those stretches. Last night, that was the stretch where Beal took over. That was when he was his most aggressive. So that was huge to see, because he had been saying, I'd asked him about it, and he said, I feel like we're getting more comfortable now that we have the bench rotation ironed out. And now that we know what guys we're going to be playing with in that stretch, like it feels more comfortable. So this is huge because, like you said, Saul, Beal is that third piece that can push the Suns into unfair, unstoppable territory. They just have to figure out that balance. And because they've only played 36 games together, I think it's been more of a work in progress than we expected.
I really hope before the end of the season we see a game where all of them are clicking, like at a high level, not just like each one of them's got 25 or something. I'm talking about like, you pick your poison at every possession down
Leo
the court.
Leo in the chat is asking for a game where Book goes for 50, KD goes for 40, and Beal goes for 30.
Damn.
That's a lot.
That's a lot of points.
That's 100.
I mean, that's
120
Tell me
points.
that would not be a vibe.
That'd probably be the greatest game from 3 teammates.
Our heads would be so big we couldn't fit through a door if that ever happened.
I mean, again, I that's what I'm hoping for, because we've seen teams play in the past where you're watching them and you just can't figure out, like, how could you possibly stop that team? You know what I mean? And these three have the ability to do that. We just haven't seen that all at the same time before. So I'm hoping that the best is yet to come for sure. I do feel good because we're right on the heels of Book having back-to-back phenomenal games. KD was in a groove just before that as well. And even during Book's games, he was still dropping 25, 30. And then now Beal's coming into the mix. Man, if you can get all 3 of those guys locked in, that does change the dynamic, because for as up and down as the season has been, you could make an argument that we haven't seen the best of the big 3 still. And despite that, they still might find themselves as a 50-win basketball team when all is said and done, which is miraculous. And you got to give them credit for that. So I'm optimistic that the best is still yet to come.